spaghetti together.
Spaghetti and go. Okay. Nice to meet you.
Okay, we can do this. Okay, we can edit this. Okay, so sorry, I'm sorry. You're
Sorry in the
fine.
middle.
I know, right? Okay. I had to get all the laughs out. Now I'm working. Okay.
Okay, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing okay. I mean, I'm doing okay.
I'm okay. We're just, in kind of a weird place with just things going on with our family.
Yeah, so Clark, he's 13, and we're just kind of nervous about the friends he's hanging out with. I feel like he's getting exposed to more like sexual things of like sexual nature, and I just don't really know about like, masturbation, things like that. Well, you've been in your room a lot and you've locked the door and we don't know what's going on. So
The door's locked it's a big thing.
Yeah. And I just feel like he's hanging around a lot of friends. Some of his friends who are his age are already sexually active, and I just feel like I don't know how long that's gonna take till he starts, becoming sexually active. I mean, I'm just saying, you just never know. So
Just because Josh does doesn't mean I will.
well,
And we haven't really talked about it. We're not really sure how to talk about it and like approach it, just because he's already kind of gone through the class, and so we don't know what kind of information he got, and it's, I don't know, we're just not really sure what to do.
yeah, we feel like that class might have been a little too progressive, if you will, a little more graphic. Then I don't think 13-year-olds need to be hearing the word vagina or penis. I mean, that's not appropriate, I don't think. So we just don't talk about it. We don't really want to talk about it, but I am nervous that he is going to be influenced in the wrong way. So we're just really concerned for him.
I'm curious, have you guys ever heard of a sex positive approach with your son?
No. What does
I think
that
so.
mean?
Sorry.
Well, so sex positivity, I think that this is a very common thing among parents, and in fact, most parents, when approaching topics of sex, feel nervous, to discuss it with their kids, or, are kind of not sure exactly how to go about it. And the beauty of the sex positive approach is that it is research based, and what basically research have learned over the past, several decades is that it's actually, very beneficial for children to be able to talk openly about sex with their parents, and to be able to have those conversations. And that, there's also this myth that, if I talk to my kid about sex, or if other people talk to my kid about sex, then they're more likely to, engage in behaviors that I may or may not be comfortable with. And, the truth of that is that actually when we, talk to our children, then they're actually more likely to open up to us, and the relationship is more likely to be strong and supportive for them. And so, that is something that's very important. And also the aspect of, each child being able to, teenagers, as, our kids grow, to be able to have that self-determination to recognize, with the help and support of their parent, what feels right for them. Now, in hearing that, how does that sit with you?
I think kind of what you were talking about with, having that conversation and opening that topic with him, and being worried about like, just because we're talking about it, I don't want him to get the ideas and then necessarily go do those things. And so that's been kind of maybe a concern of why we haven't started a conversation either.
Yeah, I feel like talking about it openly might give him the idea of like how to do something, and I don't want to do that, open that can of worms,
Yeah, oftentimes that's a myth with sex positivity, that it doesn't necessarily condone children having sex or having frequent sex, and it really helps them learn about their own body, be open with their parents. It has been shown that it helps reduce the amount of sexual abuse that these children receive. Oftentimes sexual offenders will target children who are more fearful or avoidant of talking about their body parts, like you were saying. And knowing that anatomical names helps them come to their parents and say, this is exactly what happened to me.
Absolutely.
What about his age though? Like I'm kind of nervous that he's way too young to even. Well,
I know,
you
oh.
are. I mean, you're barely just turned 13. I mean, he's.
Yeah, but you can find everything on TikTok.
You're
That's
also in your room all the time with the door locked. Like,
yeah.
you know, we're okay with some privacy, but it just feels like you don't want to be around anymore. And like, there's just things going on, and you know, we're concerned.
Well, I'm curious, you know, how do you know, what exactly, like Clark, I mean, for you could be, playing video games, he could be doing anything in his room, it doesn't necessarily have to be, I don't know, about sex or whatever. So Clark, for you, when your parents bring up this concern, how does that make you feel?
They're just really awkward.
Mm.
And I don't really want to talk to them. It's a lot easier to talk to my friends and ask them questions, or even some of their parents are way cooler. And so it's easier, but they're just so awkward about all of it.
Gotcha. Yeah. And how does that make the two of you feel to hear that?
Well, I mean, this is how. I mean, our church doesn't talk about it, and my parents didn't talk about it, and
Neither.
yeah, I didn't have very many partners before Brooke, so I just don't think it needs to be talked about. And I'm just nervous, like, what if he starts dating someone who's 14 or 15 and like they pressure him? I mean, isn't that illegal? He's only 13. There's got to be some kind of standard for that or something.
Yeah, so I think it's important to also teach the considerations of having sex, of consequences of STDs or STIs, pregnancy,
Are you listening?
or also the legal age of consent in the state of Kansas is 16. And so understanding that anytime younger than that, it is going to be illegal and you can get in legal trouble for that.
So talking openly with him about that
Yes.
stuff won't
Being
make
open.
him immediately have sex
Exactly.
or other things. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, this is a good question to ask, Clark, you said that, other parents are cooler and, that it's easier to like talk to them about sex, and I'm sure that your parents, would love to, it seems like they're concerned for you and wanna have, a relationship with you where they'd be able to talk to you or where you'd feel more comfortable. And so I guess I'm curious, from your perspective, what would make you feel more comfortable to be able to talk to your parents about sex?
I think if they just like approach it with more ease, maybe like they come in really anxious, maybe talking about it sometimes, so that really makes me anxious because it's like I can tell they don't want to talk about this, and so then I don't want to talk about it either. It's already kind of an awkward subject, so they come in and like you can just feel that vibe, no cap, and so
That makes sense.
yeah, they get really anxious, and that bothers me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then I guess, kind of going back to you guys, if like hearing that from Clark, hearing that, I don't know, that the anxiousness is something that, if you were more relaxed, he would feel a bit more comfortable. And also, acknowledging the fact that, Aubrey, you said earlier that, your church like doesn't talk about it and that this is something that feels kind of new for you. But, given that, would you be willing to kind of maybe take a step into this direction and to try to be able to have these conversations in a different way?
Yeah, I didn't realize that he was feeling so. Realizing that we were anxious, I didn't know he was picking up on that. It's kind of normal to me. I mean, this is just what my family did, and it is. I think it's awkward too. So I didn't realize he was picking up on our anxiety.
Sure. Absolutely.
I think knowing that, Clark, you think that we're anxious and like we kind of feel like maybe you're anxious to talk about it, knowing that you're kind of more open to it if we weren't so anxious, helps us maybe not be so anxious about talking to you about it.
So it seems like the openness all around is helpful for both of you guys, for all of you guys.
Yeah, and this information's helpful. I didn't know a lot of these things, and there was
right.
research behind it. I didn't know that. I just
Right.
thought we all thought about it the same way. So that's
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ethically, we can't put our biases on you guys. We can't make you believe what we believe, but we can inform you and teach you about different things and leave it to you to decide. So here is a handout that I think would be helpful, and we'll go over it together. in just understanding what sex positivity is with children.
Absolutely, and how to do it, because, as you talked about it, this is a new thing, and honestly, many parents, this is something that, talking about it with their kids, it's like they haven't had that experience,
That's true.
as kids and whatnot, and so.
He is our one and only Clarky.
All right, well, so if we could go down to the, sex positive pillars, there are, I believe, 5 or 6 of these. Just take a look over all those, and we can talk about, any questions that you have, which ones impress you, which ones you think might be a little more difficult. Just kind of get your thoughts on that.
If you guys want to come back next week with some questions, we would be open to talk about that. I also have a few websites that would be helpful. Advocatesforyouth.org, sexpositivefamilies.com, and talkwithyourkids.org are a few resources that you guys can research on your own, just to learn a little bit more about these things we're sharing in this
Okay.
section.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we could look this over as a family, maybe start the conversation trying to be, go in that direction, as you said, move in that direction. And then maybe, having this to look at could give us like a guideline for conversation. So we'll look at this and then come back next week.
Fantastic. I think that's a great idea, and I think it is important to say too, like, we know that, this will be a transition, and if it feels a little awkward, to begin with, that's okay, and just, as you said, just go ahead and, reference this, and we can come back and talk, with more questions next week.
Thanks. You guys are the best therapists we've ever had.
Glad we could
The best clients we've ever had.
Okay.
Get out of my